Today, more than 5 million Americans are living with Alzheimer's disease. By 2050, that number will more than triple, reaching 16 million. In New York State, there are roughly 400,000 folks living with Alzheimer's disease and 1 million family members and friends who provide unpaid care for them. In 2016, these caregivers provided 1.2 billion hours of care, valued at a whopping $14.7 billion. I know because I'm one of them. I'm the only child of a single mother living with Alzheimer's disease, and I'm not an anomaly. 2/3 of all caregivers are women, and 2/3 of those living with Alzheimer's disease and other forms of dementia are also women. Older Black and Latinx folks are also up to twice as likely to be diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease than their older white counterparts. But it's a disease that most certainly impacts all of us. In 2017, taxpayers spent $259 billion caring for people with Alzheimer's disease. In New York alone, the disease costs Medicaid more than $4.5 billion each year, the highest of any state. And in 2015, the disease rose to the 8th leading cause of death in New York, up from 19th in 2006. Despite these statistics, however, the advocacy group Us Against Alzheimer's believes that we can end the disease as we know it with a, quote, political strategy that ensures elected officials and lawmakers make fighting Alzheimer's and finding its cure a national priority, end quote. And I agree. Here are just a few ways that folks like you and I can begin to address the burden that Alzheimer's disease and dementia will continue to have on our health, our seniors, caregivers, and the U.S. economy. First, ask your local representatives, like your city council member, state senator, and even the mayor, to allocate funding to organizations in your neighborhood and throughout New York City that provide educational resources and respite care for those living with Alzheimer's disease, their caregivers, and their loved ones. Organizations like Caring Kind and the New York City chapter of the Alzheimer's Association are great examples. Second, demand that your elected officials introduce and pass legislation that will improve the quality of life for seniors, including greater access to assisted living facilities for those with Alzheimer's disease, as well as access to affordable housing for all seniors. In the year 2000, just 15% of the city's population was age 60 plus, and by 2040, more than 1 in every 5 New Yorkers will be over 60. Now is the time to ensure enhanced and expanded resources are made available to the city's aging population. Third, lobby Congress and the Senate to increase the amount of funding at the National Institutes of Health that is allocated to Alzheimer's disease and other dementias. We spend almost 10 times more on federal research funding for heart disease than we spend on Alzheimer's. And that's despite the fact that between the years 2000 and 2013, deaths resulting from heart disease decreased by 14%, while deaths from Alzheimer's increased 71%. And last, but certainly not least, request that lawmakers revise labor protection laws to include paid caregivers like home health aides so that those who work in private homes receive livable wages, paid time off, and other basic benefits that are made available to the rest of the American workforce. With most of these workers being low-income immigrants and women of color, we must act now to grant them equal protection under the law. I'm hopeful that with your help and with action from our elected officials, we can set the national stage and put New York on a path to dismantling the ravaging effects that Alzheimer's disease has on folks like me and my mother. Because if we can't make it here, then we can't make it anywhere.